A man named Jack bought an old, dilapidated cabin for just 25 cents. Everyone in the village thought he was crazy, because no one dared to go near the cabin. They whispered that the cabin held a secret that everyone feared, and no one was brave enough to open its door. But Jack decided to defy this belief and entered the cabin to uncover the hidden secret. The narrative. Jack didn't care what people said. He just knew there was something unusual about this cabin. He walked up to the crooked, unmoving door and carefully opened it. That was the moment he discovered the secret no one else dared to open. Once inside, he found a map hidden securely within the cabin's wall. The map showed the way to the lost treasure of a notorious gang leader, known as Frank. The map was not an ordinary one. It was encoded, and Jack had to decipher the code to find the real location. Jack began his adventure to find the treasure. Along the way, he faced many unexpected obstacles. First, he encountered the rival, a competitor who was tracking him to steal the map. Jack had to cross the scorching desert and treacherous mountain valleys to escape from the rival. After safely escaping the rival's pursuit, Jack finally reached the location shown on the map. He found a cave full of traps set by Frank to protect his treasure. Jack had to use his wits to navigate through the traps. Finally, he found the treasure, which was full of gold and priceless jewels. However, he didn't take the treasure because he knew it would only lead to more conflict and trouble. He decided to take only a few items of sentimental value, leaving the rest behind as a memory. Jack stood at the entrance of the cave, the torchlight flickering across the piles of gleaming gold and precious jewels. It was a king's ransom, enough to make him one of the richest men in the West. But something felt wrong. The thrill of the discovery was overshadowed by the chilling silence of the cave. He remembered the old man's journal, and how the last words were, "The true treasure is not what you seek." Ignoring the glittering piles of gold, Jack focused on a small, worn leather pouch tucked away in a corner. It was plain and unadorned, completely out of place among the extravagant wealth. He carefully picked it up and opened it. Inside, he found a small compass, a locket with a faded picture of a woman and a child, and a folded letter. The letter was from Frank, the gang leader, addressed to his son. It detailed his life of crime, his regret for the pain he caused, and his desperate hope that his son would find this letter. He confessed that the treasure was a lie, a distraction he created to hide the letter and the locket. The locket contained a single small silver key. Frank explained that the key unlocked a small chest hidden in the same cabin where Jack found the map. The chest held a ledger with the names of all the people he had robbed and a plan to return their money. Frank believed that returning the money was the only way to find peace for his soul. Jack realized that the cabin wasn't just a place to hide a map. It was the final destination. The true treasure was not gold but redemption. He decided to continue his journey not for wealth, but to fulfill the promise of a dying man. A race against time. Jack now understood the truth. The gold was bait, a final test to see if he was worthy of the real mission. He turned his back on the glittering piles and began the long journey. Back to the cabin. The compass in his hand, a gift from a dying man, seemed to point the way with a newfound purpose. But the journey wasn't going to be easy. The rival wasn't far behind. His greed-fueled mind convinced that Jack had taken the gold. He was a relentless shadow, now more dangerous than ever. Jack knew he had to be smart. He used the terrain to his advantage, creating false trails and hiding his tracks in the thick underbrush. He managed to reach the cabin just as the sun was setting. The rival was close, and there was no time to lose. Using the silver key from the locket, Jack searched for the hidden chest. He felt along the rough-hewn walls, his fingers tracing the patterns of the wood until he found a loose plank. Behind it was a small, dusty chest. Inside, he found the ledger. The pages were filled with names, dates, and locations. It was a complete record of Frank's crimes, a grim catalog of a life of thievery. But on the last page, there was a detailed plan. Frank had built a small, successful gold mine under an assumed name, and the profits were all earmarked for a single purpose: to repay those he had wronged. The rival burst into the cabin, his eyes wide with a triumphant gleam. He saw the ledger and immediately assumed it was a map to more gold. He lunged for it, but Jack was faster. He threw the ledger to the ground, and a cloud of dust billowed up, momentarily blinding the rival. Jack slipped out of the cabin and locked the door behind him. The rival was trapped, and Jack had what he needed: He now had the means to fulfill Frank's dying wish and bring peace to his soul. But the journey was far from over. He still had to find the gold mine and, more importantly, the people who were owed restitution. The final gambit. Jack knew he couldn't just leave the rival to die. Despite their conflict, Jack's conscience wouldn't allow it. After securing the ledger, he unlocked the cabin door, allowing the rival to stumble out, dazed and defeated. The rival saw that Jack had not taken the gold, and the shame of his greed washed over him. He vanished into the night, a changed man. With the ledger in hand, Jack began his most important quest yet. Frank's mine, known as the Quiet Creek Mine, was hidden deep in a remote canyon, and the ledger provided a series of coordinates and landmarks that only a seasoned prospector like Frank would understand. Jack followed the winding trails, his mind no longer on personal gain, but on the faces of the people listed in the ledger. Farmers, shopkeepers, and families whose lives had been upended by Frank's crimes. After weeks of relentless travel, Jack found the mine. It was a humble operation, but the ledger revealed that it was producing a steady stream of gold, a stark contrast to the reckless life Frank once led. Jack worked tirelessly, using the mine's profits to return the money to those who were wronged. It was a long and arduous process, but with each name he crossed off the list, he felt a sense of peace that no amount of gold could provide. The final entry in the ledger was for a young widow named Sarah, whose husband's savings had been stolen by Frank's gang. Jack delivered the gold to her himself, not revealing the source, but simply saying it was a debt being repaid. Sarah's tears of gratitude were the only payment Jack needed. He had not only fulfilled Frank's final wish, but had also found his own purpose in life. He became a silent guardian, a man who believed that the true measure of wealth was not what you had, but what you were willing to give back. It sounds like you enjoyed the story of Jack and his incredible journey. It's a tale that shows the true value of a person isn't found in gold, but in their character and willingness to do what's right. Thank you for allowing me to tell this story.